So hello, today is October 27th, a couple days before Halloween, and this is the weekly Kubernetes community meeting. I'm Joe Beta, and I will be playing the part of Sarah today since she's out. And we have a pretty full agenda. It looked like it was going to be light, but then some other folks put themselves on the agenda, so that's exciting. I need a note taker. Do we have any volunteers? No? Don't everybody raise their hand at once? All right, well, I cannot walk and chew gum at the same time, so we'll probably have less than but at least we'll have the recording, because things are being recorded. Did I mention that things are recording? Yes, they are being recorded. So,
hey, Joe, I'll take a crack at it, but if anyone wants to look over my shoulder and help out, that'd be fine too.
That's great. Okay, so do you have permissions on this, Bob? Do you know?
I thought I did. Let me double check.
I'll just add you again. This doc is getting really long. After the meeting, I'm gonna break out some of the old stuff. It's like 100 pages now, which is kind of crazy. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. First on the agenda is Matt from StackPoint. Matt, are you around?
I'm here. Yep.
Oh, awesome. There you are. Okay, great. Matt is a fellow Seattleite. When I moved, he took my boxes. It's exciting. But he's going to show us StackPoint.io, universal for Kubernetes anywhere. So take it away, Matt.
Cool. So I will share my screen here. So like Joe said, I'm Matt from StackPoint Cloud. We're a product and services company focused on Kubernetes and microservices and DevOps tooling. We also actually host the meetups in Seattle, New York City, San Francisco, and Berlin. So if you guys are interested in that, feel free to reach out. So I have the app shared out. Can everybody see my screen? All right, I'll take that as yes. So what we've done is we've taken an approach to managing Kubernetes clusters and deploying Kubernetes clusters with exceptional usability and exceptional design. We wanted to follow a DigitalOcean-like experience so that users don't really have to think about too many things to get something up and running. So we've enabled a few stories in here right now. So the first story that we have is easily being able to build a cluster. We have it's a three-step process. Just choose your cluster. We allow you to drop in your SSH key if you have one. If you don't have one, we generate one for you. That is, you can download it one time. You submit your, go to the next step. In the next step, we allow you to compose the infrastructure. Right now, we're supporting 1.4.4. We, by default, install the Kubernetes dashboard, and we default to CoreOS stable as well. We've also done a native implementation of HA proxy as an ingress controller, and we ship that with every cluster that's built through our tooling. We actively have that as a pull request in the project right now. We also allow you to add solutions. So, we've been focused mostly on solutions that are a little bit more complex to do, things like Fabric 8, Deis, and Tectonic. We also do things like Sysdig, where we enable you to drop Sysdig in and then license Sysdig through the application, and then you just deploy that out. Another thing that we've added in is today we released a autoscaler that allows, so when you can choose your autoscaler, and then we allow you to set your max nodes. And then what this does is just adds the autoscaler into the cluster build. So we only have one autoscaler, and that supports all of the public cloud providers that we support. When we add a new public cloud provider, autoscaling for that, node autoscaling for that public cloud provider is automatically supported through the tooling. So there's no need for us to update or add or create another autoscaler strictly for that cloud provider. We do support features such as Trusted Platform Module for bare metal providers, so that we can tell a distributed trusted computing story. Right now, that's only supported on Packet at the moment. And so I can easily just build this if I wanted to, but it's going to take 10 minutes to build, so I'm not going to build it on the demo. We also give you a management, kind of like a list view of the clusters. We show you the provider. We show you the Kubernetes version. We pre-create the kubeconfig file for you, so you simply just have to download that, and you can begin using kubectl to manage a cluster. Hold on, I'm moving this dialog out of the way. If you want, you can dive into a cluster and actually start to see details. This is a cluster that we actually, so today we also partnered with the Fabric 8 team over at Red Hat to deliver a production story for Fabric 8 on Amazon Web Services. What that means is we actually create all the volumes, we set everything up, we set up HA proxy, and within 15 minutes you have a developer platform that you can begin to use and deliver whatever app you want to deliver into that platform. We give you a solutions view where you can drop in and just see all the solutions that you have configured. We provide you with the like the IP address for HA proxy. We give you the endpoint for Fabric 8. We have an event log that actually just kind of covers what's going on in the build process, what's going on in the solution install process, and a variety of things. Let me try to find another cluster here. Hold on. So we also allow you to navigate on this left side to look around and do things. Like here, I've got an error in the event log, and this was something where I was doing this is another tool that we've just added, which is the ability to onboard using Docker Compose. So what we've done is we made it where you just drop into another 3-step workflow where you're able to simply drag and drop your Docker Compose file into the interface. Well, I'll just go with my green cake solution as my name. Convert it into Kubernetes. So we allow you to do it, and then we're going to let you, so we catch an error, we allow you to go in, adjust the compose file before we convert it, and then you just simply say, let me review the manifest. We automatically convert it into a manifest, and then allow you to simply jump into a cluster build flow. And then when you're going through here, you're able to go here and begin to look and find your solution and choose it, and then add it to your cluster, and then build and basically initiate the build. So that is pretty much the app actually at the moment. We also have an API that allows you to manage multiple clusters through us. So our own application is sitting on top of a RESTful API that's authenticated. We allow you to generate a API token if you want one, and then be able to interact with us and your cluster. So there you go. Any questions?
Yeah, did you use the Kubernetes Compose project to do the conversion of the Docker Compose format to Kubernetes resources?
Yeah, we worked with Sebastian and talked to him about that,
Cool.
and so we leveraged that behind the scenes to do things. And so we automatically update that whenever there's an update to it, so that and then we're also starting to collect metrics on things that are problematic with it, and we're going to feed that back to Sebastian at some point. We also, the other thing that we do, we also publish our build numbers publicly on our app site. We've built so we have over 1,100 clusters that have been built through this application thus far. We have over 1,000 organizations that are using this tool right now to build, deploy, and do whatever those organizations do with Kubernetes. And so that's helping us drive a lot of feedback into the application. We also monitor all the logs, and as we discover weird things with providers, we patch that in our code base so that we can give a consistent build experience to everyone. We have a pretty high build rate now. We have a 99% success rate usually. The only time we start to run into issues is if you, like the Docker Compose stuff, we're still working, obviously there's some issues in there with conversion, and so that can cause a solution install failure. Down the road, we do have plans to support Helm, but we feel Helm is a much lower hanging fruit, and we wanted to focus on things like Fabric 8 so we can because we actually have customers who are trying to do like developer platform type of stories, and so we needed to do that type of stuff before we did smaller things.
Hey Matt, how do you handle upgrades on clusters?
Yeah, that's a problem still. So we're following the lifecycle SIG right now to see what the direction is going to be, but we haven't approached it yet. We have taken a look at the CoreOS self-hosted model, and that is kind of the way that we may be thinking of going. But as yet, we haven't made a decision on that.
Hey, this is Eric. I think the Kubernetes project should have an opinion on the best practice for doing this and publish it.
Yeah, I think that's what Matt was referring to from the SIG, right? The cluster lifecycle SIG should come up with that. So Matt, I guess the other question is, if you can't do upgrades, do you have a sort of easy mechanism to sort of clone a cluster in your version? Like take your same solutions and deploy those in a new cluster at 1.4.5 when that comes out?
Yeah, that's actually on the roadmap, but we don't have that in the app at the moment. We're highly iterative, so we're a non-funded company, by the way, and so we're highly iterative on the app. So we release features every 2 to 3 weeks, and so we do have that on the roadmap, but we don't have that actually in the product at the moment. And you'll notice I'm actually demoing from staging. The main reason we do that is to not include our build numbers. But yeah, we do have that on the plan. Basically, the ability to clone, not only clone for upgrades, but also clone into other providers.
Cool. That's awesome. That's great. Thanks.
All right. Very cool. Thank you so much, Matt. And we have to rush off to the next item on the agenda. So we have an update from SIG Storage, Aaron Boyd and Saad Ali.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, there's some noise coming from somebody. Let me see if I can figure out what's going on there.
Okay.
Great.
Hi. So Saad and I have been both working on improving the quality and durability of the storage code. We've been, through a rapid development cycle and a very large rebase, and with that, of course, came not a lot of time to write tests to prove that, as we move forward, the code is still stable from release to release. So we had kind of a separate group that we set up to go through all the bugs that we've seen through the different releases and make sure that we have tests addressing these bugs and any features that are coming through. And then with that, a new process for code that's checked in to include these end-to-end tests. I think a lot of time in open source and really any software project, if we're all honest here, testing and documentation become the last thing that everyone wants to do. So I think storage faces some unique challenges in that the plugins that we write necessarily aren't and cannot be directly put into the CI. So kind of a dummy is in its place to provide testing, and we don't have a way to automate the durability of those. So with the end-to-end tests, we're hoping to at least simulate what we can to find any bugs, make it more stable, push it out to our customers, make it more secure. So I think we're well ahead of the mark where we thought we would be working on these tests, and we've had really great interactions within the community to help contribute to the effort. Saad, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that captured it pretty well.
Yeah, I think, again, these are just really good first steps. And so, we are trying to start an ongoing sort of effort within the Storage SIG community. And I think the structure is there now for new people to come in. We just had someone join like a week ago. And because of the work that Aaron and Saad have put together, he looked at a spreadsheet. He said, oh, cool, here's work that no one's doing, and then started coding. And so, it's not just writing these first tests. It's actually having a vision for what we want to do going forward. And on top of that, making things readily available for people to contribute, which is really impressive that they did this so quickly.
Thanks.
So one question that I had is so you said that you can't test the real thing in CI/CD. Is that just because some of these systems are not available in the places where we're running the CI/CD? Is that
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, some require some pretty significant setup to run it in that specific platform, which wouldn't be possible. But we can at least provide a close emulation to test the code paths. And then we have to rely on, setting it up ourselves and doing that. And so I think we have to have a good process moving forward for, each of these plugins to make sure that those contributing are doing that due diligence in addition to what we're doing. But certainly what we're doing is a good stopgap and first step towards better code quality.
Well, that sounds great. I think, it might be, and I'm sure you guys are aware of this, but there is provisions as part of the the testing SIG for federated end-to-end testing and reporting of this stuff. So, it might be worthwhile thinking about like how can we get, vendors who have pretty esoteric equipment to actually dedicate some of that equipment for continuous testing.
I think there's even a note in chat from Aaron asking for some interlock with the testing group. And, it feels like that's the kind of thing also that the CNCF cluster might be a good home for, that kind of gear too.
Oh, I've
just a thought.
Yeah, send a note to SIG Storage or Saad and myself, and I would love to collaborate on that. I mean, I think the more people we get involved across the groups, this really trickles down into beyond storage, how we can make this better for the entire Cube community.
Can I believe since there's some folks on the Samsung team that are involved in some of the storage bits, I think there's some Kubecon stuff coming up. Might be a good opportunity for you to advertise any activities you have planned.
Yep, we plan to, for sure. So.
All right, sounds great. Thank you so much for the update. Any other questions or comments? No, awesome. Well, let's keep plugging ahead. So where's the link for the SIG storage plans? If Saad or Aaron, if one of you folks could dig that up and drop that in the chat, that'd be great. So let's see, the next thing we have on here is migrating Kubernetes to use ClientGo, and Chow was gonna give us an update on that. This looks like a big job.
Yeah. Hello everyone. So we are going to migrate all the components, including the our controllers, the schedulers, and kubelet to using ClientGo. ClientGo, it's a separate repository now, and that's our blessed Go client. The major reason we are doing this is because first we want to dog fooding ClientGo. We want to let the Kubernetes core components to use the same library we provide to other developers, and also it's more conceptually correct because ClientGo doesn't do any conversion, defaulting, and other API machinery. All those things will be done by server, and components like controllers and schedulers or kubelet should be done clients. So that's also conceptually correct. But this change will be huge. It will touch almost every file in our repository. So what we plan to do, we have already discussed this in SIG API machinery. So what we plan to do is to build a huge PR during the 1.5 code freeze and get it to merged as the first PR once 1.5 freezes. 1.5 unfreeze. So this will cause other developers. So basically, every developers who have PR cached there will need to rebase their code. So that's why I'm bringing this up in this group. So if anyone, it's a heads up, and if anyone has objection, please let me know.
So how invasive is that going to be? Is that going to be mostly rewriting the imports and a few names here and there, or is it a major API change?
I'm sorry.
How difficult is it going to be to do that conversion for people to update their in-flight PRs? Is it just updating some imports and a few names here and there?
It will be imports, and the difficult thing might well be because currently all our clients is using the internal version object like API.pod, but after the migration it will be a version object, so you will be dealing with v1.pod rather than API.pod.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hopefully that won't be too invasive, and it seems like doing it after the code freeze at least gives a little bit of stability. But these things are always tricky and always a little bit bumpy. So,
yeah, it's also a good time because December will be the slowest month.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments on that?
where do some objects lie? Because it's always been confusing to me, like component config. Is that will still maintain its current location, or was that going to somehow be migrated to the client repository? Like where's the split for the API objects versus what's the client?
So those after the migration, you will be using the clients will have their own types. Although currently it's the exact same copy as the one used by API server.
So Chow, the client config uses the API machinery, but they're not actually APIs. So eventually, I would like to move them out of the APIs directory, but they won't use the client that Chow is talking about because there are no client calls involved with the client config. With the component config.
Yeah, I think there's a few other places where we're using that machinery for things that aren't strictly APIs.
Yeah, I mean, we use that machinery for kubeconfig. We use it for the scheduler config. Basically, we're trying to use that machinery for anywhere where we serialize any schema of any kind in the system. So we just have one approach to dealing with versioning and all of that. The one place in kubelet that will not change is the static pods, because those actually need to run the defaulting, for example, on the kubelet for the API server. But again, those are sort of all non-client scenarios. It's just the client calls that are going to change.
It seems like a great change, and I know that customers will really enjoy not having to import the world or the internet to be able to actually start writing code against Kubernetes. And so
yeah, and this is also
it's really about making sure that works.
Yeah, and it's a stepping stone to doing things like moving the scheduler out of the main repo and stuff like that. So
which is great. Very, very cool. Well, thank you. That is that's not fun, but it's important work. So thank you, Joe. All right, so the next on the agenda is...
Hey, Joe.
Yes.
Joe, just a quick note-keeping update here. So this link that was posted for the component config files in chat is not presently open. So just wanted to make sure that Aaron Boyd saw the requests for that to be opened.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm working on it now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this is the annoyance of Google Docs that if you actually create it inside an organization,
one more thing too.
Depending on policy,
I want to make sure that we, I'm really excited that the storage stuff is going out and people are taking a look at like this testing sort of system, but I also want to make sure that we don't drown it with cool intention. It is making progress, and so realize it's not polished for external and everyone quite to jump in. It's something now that we're using as a way for everyone to coordinate and make progress internally in the SIG. So let's that's I admit I want to make sure that we keep that balance too.
I think the request is open it for read access.
Yes, I have to do it person by person because it was opened within Red Hat, unfortunately. So
yeah, sometimes the best way to do that is just to recreate the doc using your personal Gmail. Unfortunately,
Aaron, what I usually do is just share with Kubernetes Dev.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
That'll catch a lot of people.
I'll make
All
that.
right, let's keep moving. So the next item on the agenda is the final decision on the pet set name from Eric. Just to be clear, this is not an invite to Bike Shed and discuss that name, but just an announcement of the results. Is that correct, Eric?
I mean, the results already been announced. I'm just discussing we're beyond the point of any discussion about that, as in my view. I'm just giving people a heads up that we have several engineers actively working on the rename PRs to be able to go in for the code freeze, and then it's going to be split across several, so the docs will happen after the code freeze. But people are actively working towards getting that all done for 1.5, and I just wanted to give everyone a heads up that they might want to start thinking about renaming their config and such to prepare themselves for 1.5 if they're eager for that. And I can answer questions not about the name, but about the mechanics of the rename that is happening.
Can you post the PRs to the notes, please? Or stick it in the chat here, and I'll post it for you.
They are not ready at this very minute, but as soon as they come, okay. I could mail to Kubernetes Dev and say, hey, these are interesting to people.
Great.
Well, awesome. I think I want to congratulate everybody on coming to a decision on a very controversial topic and committing to move forward. So that's exciting that we're able to make that happen. All right, so the next item on the agenda, and thank you, Eric, is a really cool reference docs prototype from Philip. And I know that Brian sent this out a little while ago to the API machinery stuff, and I took a look at it.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm just showing off some prototyping I'm doing with the docs. And if you're interested in giving feedback or learning more, you can come to the SIG docs meetings. But I'll just give you a quick walkthrough of what I'm working on and the goals. And the goals are to provide an experience more like the Stripe documentation, where you can provide more discoverability and examples next to the reference for the fields. And I've broken up the documentation up into a couple of categories of resources. So workloads, discovery, and config. And then as you dive into these, you can see that the different operations are called out, and you can, as you scroll through it, it will update the left-hand nav. The CSS needs some work, and that can all come later with the docs framework, but I don't know. Take a look and see if it's useful for you.
Well, I can say that I think it's a heck of a lot more usable than the other documentation that we have right now. So I'm really excited about this. This is very, very cool.
Great, thank you. And I think that's all I got.
All right, so there's a bunch of comments in the thing here. Great work, nice. I think everybody's very bullish on it. I think it's going to be one of those things where I have some feedback. I can send that to you separately, but it's awesome. I think it's an awesome start here. Now, is this being generated from scraping types.go directly, or is it being generated from the schema files?
It's generated from the open API spec. Theoretically, you could use it for any open API spec. There's a lot of hand massaging I've done, but I've pulled that out into a config file. If anyone's interested, I can show them. And the config file is just to give structure and map specific APIs to generalized APIs.
Awesome. Very exciting. All right. Oh, a bunch of stuff got deleted in the notes. I don't know what's going on here. I think Aaron accidentally deleted a bunch of stuff. So. Okay, great.
Thanks. Send me feedback.
All right. Yes, please send feedback to Philip. It looks great. And then eventually, I assume this will get hosted on Kubernetes.io and become the official documentation. Is that the goal?
Yes, that's the goal.
All right. Very, very cool. All right. The next step is we're going to be talking about releases. And so the first point there is Jess on 1.4. Jess, are you around?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, so we're going to cut 1.4.5 tomorrow. So just keep pinging me on cherry picks, and I'll get them in. That's about it.
Okay. Is there sort of a top line of like the exciting cherry picks and stuff coming into this point release?
Not really. Mostly fixes and good things to make life better.
Okay. Everything you expect in a point release. Nothing exciting. All boring stuff, right?
Yeah, totally.
No huge security fire drills.
No.
All right. Okay. So yeah. So if you have cherry picks to go into 1.4, reach out to Jess and she can help guide you through that. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question on releases, Joe? Is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead. I am not the expert necessarily, but I'm sure somebody
Well, no,
here is.
this is more just sort of for the whole group. Right now in the storage team, we're trying to figure out how far back to backport some fixes. We found some fixes for some volumes and some other issues that revolve around, I think, some AWS support and some other things involving if the kubelet restarts. We know we're going to put them in 1.4. They're all, of course, set up for 1.5. Is there enough 1.3 usage out there that it's worth us backporting them to 1.3.2? 1.3 also, apologies. I was just curious how, what our sort of, how far back we should be doing support in the community.
I don't have a good answer to that. Is there?
The formal support policy should be 3 minor versions back. So if the latest release is 1.4, we should care about 1.4, 1.3, and 1.2.
Cool. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
And I think that there's a, obviously it scales with the severity of the issue that we're talking about here.
Right. I was kind of erring on the side of going to 1.3. I was just sort of curious what the community's both feelings and policy is. We can't put them in 1.2 because it involves a rewrite that happened in 1.3. And thank you very much for a great answer. And Aaron, yeah. Oh, it's Aaron, of course. Thanks, guys. Of course it's
Yeah, I think so. Somebody in the notes, so Josh says the specter of LTS raises its ugly head. Yeah. I think that's probably a discussion for a different day, but it's definitely something that we should start thinking about.
Yeah, I don't think there's consensus on exactly how far back to patch, because if you look at the CVE that got patched in 1.4.3 and did get backported to 1.3, it didn't get backported into 1.2 until someone from the community reached out to Jordan Liggett and myself directly. So that was not sort of proactively backported all the way to 1.2.
All right, great. So Aaron, do you know if that support policy is documented someplace? I was asking. He's gonna take a look. So we'll see if that's actually written down anywhere, or if it's just word of mouth. Hopefully it's written down. Okay, so 1.5, Saad and Caleb.
Yeah, so 1.5, reminder that code freeze is less than a week and a half away.
Your mic is super noisy. I don't know what's going on there. Oh,
is that better? Or? No? Okay, I'll let Caleb do that update then.
It's just a reminder that the code freeze will be Tuesday, November the 8th. So anything that comes in after that will have to go through an exception process. Is there anything more than you'd like to say about that, Saad? Yes, 1.5 alpha being cut today.
All right, very exciting. This has been a really short cycle, so I know this code freeze coming up so quick, and especially overlapping with KubeCon, is going to be incredibly painful. But remember, there's always going to be another release, so keep telling yourself that. And then that exception process, I assume that as we hit code freeze, we'll communicate who and where and when and how to try and activate that as things go.
Yeah, I believe the thinking is going to be largely driven by the SIGs being responsible for signaling that this should or should not be accepted.
All right, great. Okay, so Eric's asking, just sort of point of order here, why is Saad's name SIG Storage and my name is SIG Scale? It's because we only have a certain number of official Zoom accounts to go around, and it's really easy to leave yourself logged in when you join this meeting. So, and then because I'm recording, I need to have a real account too, in case anybody had a question on that. Okay, all right, and then Aaron was able to dig up the support and releases and component SKU stuff. So that's now in the chat, and hopefully we can stick that in the notes. All right, so we're actually running ahead of time here, so well, maybe we'll actually finish up a little bit early. Any other questions around 1.5 or the schedule there? So what gift is appropriate for asking for the exception? I think we'll talk about that in the coming meetings. All right. Let's see. So, okay, the next item on the agenda is the road to KubeCon. So the first thing there is that KubeCon is sold out. And these things are always kind of tough to figure out how big a venue to actually buy, to actually schedule, and how many people are going to come. So actually selling out, it's exciting. It makes you feel like you're part of an exclusive club, but it's not necessarily the best thing for the community. And so if you or somebody else that you know wanted to come but weren't able to because it got sold out, please have them register for the wait list, because that actually ends up being a strong signal in terms of how big a venue to book for next year. But it is exciting that it's sold out, and there's a bunch of exciting stuff happening around KubeCon. The Monday before, there are a whole bunch of SIGs are hosting face-to-face meetings, and I know there's been a bunch of discussions around that. So talk to your local SIG about what their plans are. This stuff has been a little bit ad hoc, so I don't think there's any super official schedule around that. However, the day after KubeCon is the Dev Summit, which is pretty official, and so there is a schedule now posted there, and Cameron's been doing a lot of work to pull that together. Cameron, are you online? Do you want to give a quick summary?
Yeah, I'm online. I basically am here just to talk about this in case people had questions. But yeah, so we posted the schedule. It's in the GitHub Kubernetes community/community link. We've got 3 separate tracks. There's going to be 12 sort of kind of open roundtable type discussions. There are facilitators, but not presenters for those. And all the topics came from the community. Everybody voted in a Condorcet voting poll, and that's directly what we chose. So it's at the same hotel KubeCon's at, and so if you've got your hotel already booked, just stay an extra day if you've got an invitation, and yeah, it should be fun.
There is way too much exciting stuff here, so I'm looking at this going like I'm going to be double booked on every one of these. But it's exciting. It's going to be a great.
A point of clarity. There's a note in there about no meetings the week after KubeCon. Does that mean the week of?
I think there was
No, it is the week after.
So is this meeting going to be canceled on the day of the Dev conference?
Yes.
Okay.
The week of this meeting will be canceled as well, but the week after, the idea is just to give people time to go back and focus and do work.
Yeah, the way that these conferences work, and I'm sure you all know this, is that, there's the conference itself, and then there's all the stuff going around the conference, and pretty much you end up exhausted with a pile of email left over after one of these things. And so I think that was the idea, is to give folks a little bit of breathing space to catch up on that.
I also had another question. I will post it into the notes. There's a Hacks and SIGs proposed schedule that doesn't seem to have gotten a lot of attention, which I believe is for Tuesday. So there's tables and so forth. We signed up for a table for Kate Scale. It looks like OCI might have done so. I'm assuming this is still a real thing, but it seems to have not gotten a lot of love. So, if anyone has a comment on that, that'd be great.
So, any comments? Nope. All right.
Is it a real thing? I guess is then the question.
I don't know.
All right. Let me figure out who perhaps I can bug to give us a more concrete update on that.
So this is more like expert tables for attendees of KubeCon to come and talk to the right people if they have questions.
I think that's the idea.
Okay.
Consider it like my view on it is there are going to be a lot of people wandering around not even knowing what the SIGs are, for example. And so the idea of having the SIGs sit, grab and man tables so that people can wander by and it's like, oh, I didn't know there was a SIG for this, and chat with the people that are involved in the community. Seems like a good outreach thing to do for the community folks attending the conference.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. So we should get some details on that and maybe send an update out to, or once you figure out who, can you make sure that an update gets sent out to Kubernetes dev so that people know?
Yes.
Sign up for that, and maybe we can make that, get some more details and make that happen. All right, so that is the end of the agenda. We ended up going through it pretty quickly. Oh, wait, there's another question in the chat here. So which SIG's supposed to look at the amount of open PRs in the last 2 weeks that the number has gone up? This might prevent some good PRs not meeting the deadline. So this is I mean, what are we looking at for reasons, bottlenecks causing that, and how do we actually get folks looking at those PRs? I mean, this has been an ongoing thing that we've been talking about for quite a while in terms of what is the review capacity, how do we assign stuff and incentivize people to do reviews and essentially start growing the community to be able to handle with the influx of new people contributing. I don't have a great answer in terms of what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. My guess is that a lot of people are working on their own features versus actually doing reviewing, which ends up being a sort of a tricky balance there. Brian, do you have a comment here?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. In terms of the longer term solution, yes, we're actively working on what we call the owner's effort of actually looking at growing the reviewer pool. So we're doing a lot of mining of GitHub data. At a future meeting, maybe we can get Garrett to come on and talk about that. But if you are interested in helping with the effort for figuring out how to grow the community, the Contributor Experience Working Group is focused on this exact topic. You can find the working group information in the community repo, like with all the SIGs. There are meetings and a mailing list in Slack. Also, at the Dev Summit, one of the topics is how to scale the community. So that will be an opportunity to come and discuss it in person. Brian
is making a plug for his own thing at the Dev Summit.
Yes, I am making a plug for my own thing at the Dev Summit. Within the next 2 weeks, a couple of things happened. I'm not exactly sure what happened yesterday, but the submit queue did get blocked for a while, so some PRs that were LGTM'd backed up in the queue in terms of things that are not getting reviewed. Yeah, I don't know what we can do about that. And basically, if you didn't have a partner already lined up ahead of time to review your PRs, I mean, in general, you can't assume this stuff is going to go in. If everybody only writes features and nobody is lined up to review, then yeah, you're kind of hosed.
I think, I mean, as we look for exceptions for the 1.5 time frame, if a PR has sort of been in progress and has sort of been waiting on review, is there some sort of like leniency given with respect to the hard code freeze there?
In general,
it's a dangerous slippery slope.
Yeah, and in general, probably not. In the past, we had done that sort of on a case-by-case basis. It depends on what the mitigating circumstances were. But, everybody, when you fill out the feature repo request, there is a line item for who is the shepherd, right? If you don't fill that out, you can't expect to get your feature in.
Okay, well, good data. And, it's going to be a continual process to actually sort of grow the capacity to get stuff in. So if you do have a shepherd and your PRs aren't getting reviewed, now you know who to bug.
Yeah, unfortunately, most of the features in the features repo don't have designated shepherds. So if you're a feature owner, please double check that if you'd like to see your feature implemented in the following release.
All right. Well, are there any other comments or notices or items to bring up before we can adjourn 15 minutes early and return 15 minutes to 58 people who are online right now? No? Calculate, that's a lot of man hours. All right, or person hours, I apologize. All right, thank you, everybody. It's going to be exciting next week, and I hope to see everybody who can at QCon. Have a good one.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.